us or Cambium and why you would call them, I won't belabor this one either. So we're going to be doing our office hours as we have for, geez, it's about 5 years now. And we're going to run them every Thursday from 3 to 3:30. All of you should have the Teams invite, and these are optional. Okay, so our agenda today. Sorry, Lori, what did you need there? Can you please put the link for the deck in the chat? Yes, I'm sure someone will do that. So the agenda today is just, we're going to touch on the participation numbers, some reminders, the all-important CT SEDS to TIDE connection. There's been a lot of questions about that, and then the attestation page. So as of today, 3/28, here are our counts. And you can see that progress is being made, even though it is only the first week of testing. We've completed over 25 or almost 2,500 tests for Smarter Balanced, and then we've done quite a bit for NGSS and our alternates as well. Tomorrow is our last day for KELP. So if you are open tomorrow, I think maybe some districts are, you can finish testing tomorrow with the KELP test. A couple important reminders. All materials are posted on our program, our program portal. All our TAMs and TCMs were sent out in late January. And if you need any more, a lot of districts have emailed us, hey, can I get some more? Just email the Cambium Help Desk. Keep in mind that the testing window runs until May 31st, and we also have the optional test administrator training for districts that want to use that for their test administrators. And here's our testing calendar. You should probably all be aware of what's going on here. The one thing that we will stress is, again, the March 29th date, tomorrow for KELP. And then obviously the May 31st date this year, we're finishing in May, not in June. And then we also, just to mention here, March 4th to April 19th, coming up the end of our SAT window. And yes, Michelle is here today. I think she's still here. Yes, she didn't leave us. Michelle's here if you do have SAT questions, kind of bonus coverage if you have an SAT question today. I don't think Michelle would mind taking that. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Katie and Deirdre, who are going to touch on CT SEDS and TIDE.
Great, thanks, Abe. We're going to just provide a general update on where we are in the process with syncing accommodations and designated supports from implemented IEP and 504 plans and CT SEDS to TIDE. So essentially, since the fall of the year, we've been conducting a one-way import of accommodations from implemented plans. And again, these are based on 504 and IEPs. And in February, we provided a secondary, like a refresh upload of our accommodation file so that it could capture some of the new features that we're offering for statewide assessments this spring, such as word prediction, printed test directions for students, and some other updates with designated support. So if you found, or if you're finding that there is any kind of update or difference with what you've seen in your TIDE system, it may be explained by the fact that we pushed forward a new accommodation file. And then secondly, we recently began pushing off codes to the TIDE system. So while the accommodation file happens daily, the off-code files that we're providing between CT SEDS and TIDE is happening weekly at this point in time, and certainly we'll let you know if there is a change in frequency. But essentially what the off-code file means is that if your teams have made an amendment or edit a review revise to a student's 504 or IEP and turned off accommodations, then the off-code file will essentially capture those differences and then have the accommodations turned off in the TIDE system. We recommend that you allow up to 48 hours to see any updates in TIDE based on changes within a student's plan, the implementation. So it always goes back to the start date And then, like I said, allow up to 48 hours for those changes to be reflected in Tide. And we're also conducting the sync during the week. So Monday through Friday, the sync will not occur on weekends or holidays. So if you find, like, if you expect like a plan to implement on a Friday and you're not seeing any updates on Monday, our recommendation is to wait until Tuesday, and just because of the timing. If it turns out though that you have students that are testing on a given day and there hasn't been enough time for the system to catch up with the sync, then we will provide some guidance as far as how to handle those accommodations in Tide. So we have a slide that addresses that. We'll get to those recommendations in just one moment. And then the other reminder is, if you're finding that accommodations are not syncing to Tide as you would expect, we do recommend that you look at the students' demographics in Tide to ensure that the student's IDEA or Section 504 indicator is turned on. So if that is missing, then we recommend that you follow up with your PSIS coordinator to make sure that the student's registration file is accurate. And then once those accommodations the demographics catch up between the PSIS and Tide Sync, then you can expect that allow another extra day for the accommodations to sync with CT SEDS. Abe sent an email to our district administrators this past week with some guidance about what happens or what you should do if you're finding that designated supports and accommodations are not correctly syncing with Tide. So we recommend that you work with your special ed director or the student's case manager to do a comparison between the accommodations that you're seeing in Tide and what is showing up in the student's formal plan, implemented plan, or the case manager or OSEP data manager for CT SEDS can generate a report called CT SEDS every day. And this accommodation report will provide the accommodations that are currently listed in the student's plan. And Katie's going to show you what that looks like in a couple of moments. But we do request that if you're finding unusual things, that you do partner with your special ed team to verify the accommodations that you should expect to see in Tide. And again, we recommend that you work with the team to make sure that the plan is actually implemented. So for instance, we've had a lot of calls about like the alternate assessment data, the alt assessment flag, and why is it not turned on in Tide because the team is already convened and the student's eligible. Well, if you go back to the start date, it may be such that the plan doesn't implement until April 1st or maybe April 5th or something like that. So that's a key date to pay attention to, because again, you're not going to see the accommodations or the alt flag indicator set in Tide until that date. So step number 2 just is a friendly reminder to pay attention to the implementation date. And then when you're working with your staff and you find that there is a mismatch between what you expect to see in Tide versus what's on the student's 504 or IEP, then we would like you to contact us. And if you provide us with your student's SACID and the details about what the incongruency is, then we'll do the research for you. So PCG is the company that oversees CT SEDS, and they've been making some subtle adjustments to the files in the past few weeks just to implement some patches based on some findings that were reported to us by our district administrators. And some of you, in fact, on this call have been an integral part of this this work that we're doing to improve the accommodation sync. So thank you for that. But again, if you find that there is a mismatch at any point, then please let us know, and we will work with you to find a resolution. And in some cases, we are escalating these issues to PCG so that they can look into the problem and provide a solution. So now I'm going to pass it over to Katie, who's going to share some resources for you.
All right, so thank you, Deirdre. So if in the event there's that rare circumstance, like Deirdre said, that, you know, you're seeing that there's a misalignment between CT SEDS and TIDE, we ask, like Deirdre said, to give us a shout out and reach out to us. So what we've done is we've created this form to help guide in giving us that information. So if you're contacting us about these accessibility supports not populating accurately, we're asking that you please provide the following information to our teams, which include the student SACID, the implementation date of the plan, either 504 or an IEP. That's when that goes into effect, not the meeting date or the finalization date. So that's the date that it actually begins. We're also asking for what is currently in the implemented plan for each applicable test area. So that may be for Smarter Balanced ELA or math, or NGSS, for the state testing accommodations that's within the implemented plan, and then what is currently populating in TIDE. So that's going to help us do that cross-reference and help you with potential solution, or, like Deirdre said, elevate it up to then to potentially PC up to PCG to look into further at that point. So then, like, how do I cross-reference those reports? So as Deirdre said, for the CT SEDS every day, that is pulled by the CT SEDS data manager. But what we did here is we created for teams just a quick 3-page sheet on how to pull those reports between CT SEDS every day, as well as how to pull the reports within TIDE. And we know there's many different ways to pull different reports, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to just do a quick little step of, once you log into the TIDE system, that you're then going to be going into view and edit the students with that. And we do have that hyperlinked here for you, that resource. And once you're in view and edit the students, you can then go in and do an advanced search by selecting advanced search and then either choosing the IDA search field or the 504 search field, and then selecting yes, because you want to add that in as a yes, that it's turned on, and then you select add, and then you can then hit submit and then have that populate for your district, either by the district level or by the school level, of who has either the IDA indicator turned on or who has the 504 indicator. And then you can see those student settings based on that report. You can also either print that report to help cross-reference if you prefer that print report, or you can download it into an Excel spreadsheet to cross-reference the CT SEDS everyday report, just to do that cross-reference and that cross-check between the two systems to ensure that the settings are accurately reflecting what is the implemented legal document of either the IEP or Section 504 plan. I'm going to pass it back over to Abe.
Hi, thanks, Katie. Thanks for the updates, Katie and Dee. So the last thing we wanted to mention is regarding the test attestation page. It's kind of tough to say. And this is a new feature this year that appears, and we had actually, it's not that new in the sense we mentioned it at our district test coordinator workshops. It has been in our teacher training presentation, but we just wanted to flag it for you because this will appear when a test administrator administers the summative assessments using the test administration interface. And this is a new feature, and they'll be required to enter this before they begin creating test sessions. And you might get we have an image of it that I'll show you right after this too. You might get some questions from your team. So we wanted we wanted to flag you and just let you know, hey, this is coming. So this is what and then we are updating our TAMs. Obviously we couldn't update our paper ones because that would be a huge cost and an inconvenience for everybody. So, but we are updating our electronic ones if you want to access them, and that will account for this attestation page. So if you could advance to the next slide, this is what it looks like. Oops. Oh, there we go. This is what it looks like, the attestation page. And basically the difference between last year and this year is last year we had the top 2/3 of this box where we were asking coordinators that they were properly trained and so on and so forth. They were aware of the testing protocols. And this year we're actually asking test administrators to type in the word summative, just so they know they're administering a summative test, not an interim test, but a summative test, because we had, this is like the most common flavor of appeal or irregularity when a district goes in and says, all right, I'm going to administer an interim, and they end up doing the summative or vice versa. So this is just a process where really forcing the test administrator before they start the test session to enter the word summative here. Okay, and that does it for our few minutes. And do you have any questions? We will spend a minute here. I know we have 9 more minutes in the meeting officially, but do you have any questions? You should be able to unmute yourself too. I already see one mic off, so feel free to just go ahead and state your question. It's a small group today. Hey, did you have a question? I see your mic off.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't.
Oh, okay. That's an easy one.
So it looks like there's a question in the chat, Abe. Is there a timeline when SAT scores will be released?
That's a good question.
I know I saw an email from Michelle this week, and I'm not going to try to parrot it, but I know she's still on the call.
I am
Michelle.
on the call. My
Oh,
ears
cool.
perked right up.
Yay.
Yeah, I did send an email out, but it depends when your students took the test. There's like a whole cycle of the results coming to educators through the College Board's K-12 portal first, and then like 2 days later, students should get an email releasing them to get their results through their account. So who was the person that's asking the question?
Jason.
Jason from
Oh,
Bloomfield.
Jason. Jason,
You were on,
yeah, I
so I
sent
thought
it.
I'd ask.
What'd you say?
I said you were on, so I thought I'd give you the question.
Yeah, I can put it. Oh, looks
Michelle,
like
I just
Deirdre found
in
it.
chat. Minus
Thank
the
you.
title. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, Deirdre just put it into the chat. And then if you don't have access to the K-12 College Board portal, let me know, but you should have access to it.
Yep.
Thanks, Michelle.
I mean, I don't know when we're doing statewide release, but I'm assuming it's sometime late summer, but I don't know. Right, Abe, do you know?
Yeah, probably similar to what was done last year which that was when it was, I think end of July. Don't quote us on that one though.
I won't. I was just curious about the Auburn district, so thank you both.
So thanks, Michelle. Any other questions from the team here? Could be non-testing related questions, like who do we think is going to win the UConn game tonight? I don't know what. I think UConn's going to win, so. Okay, I don't know, any of my colleagues have any other remarks? I don't want to hold everybody here. Again, we're here every Thursday from 3 o'clock from here on till May 30th, if you want to join us. And my colleagues, do you have any last words? But I'll say thanks for attending, everybody, and thanks to my colleagues.
Yeah, I'll just add that we appreciate all of your time and effort. We know that this is only one part of the work that you do throughout the school year. So we know that the testing program does take a lot of time and energy, but we certainly appreciate your due diligence and your outreach and all of your hard work to make this possible. So thank you. And we hope you have a nice long weekend as well.
I'm going to echo what Deirdre said. Have a wonderful long weekend, and thank you for all that you do.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Cheers. Have a nice weekend.